We're here at the NCUA headquarters speaking with the chairman of the NCUA, Debbie Matz, about the outcome of the monthly board meeting. First, I want to thank you for taking time to speak with us after the board meeting.
My pleasure.
There was a lot discussed at the meeting. One of the most important things, the proposed risk-based capital rule. How do you think credit unions will react to this proposed rule?
Well, I actually think credit unions will be pleasantly surprised. There's been a lot of discussion in the media before we even proposed it, and I think there were ominous warnings about what we were going to propose. And the fact is that most credit unions will not be adversely impacted by this rule. There are only about 200 credit unions that will be required to change their portfolio as a result of this rule. The others will be positively impacted because there will be fewer losses as a result of the changes that those other 200 credit unions have to make. So I think that there will be a positive reaction once people sit down and actually read and understand what we're proposing. But of course, we'd like comments on it. We read all the comments, we make a lot of changes based on the comments, so if we didn't get it right or we can do it better, we'd like to know about it.
In terms of the numbers related to the rule, there's going to be a calculator, risk-based calculator available so credit unions can go on and calculate the numbers. Could you talk a little bit about this and how it will be used?
This is a wonderful device that our staff assembled. They started from scratch, but they thought that it would be very helpful if credit unions had access to the same information and the same tool that they were going to provide to the examiners. So it will be available on our website this afternoon. All they have to do is plug in their charter number, and they don't have to do any calculating. The calculator online will automatically do an analysis for them and demonstrate to them if they need to hold more capital and where there is a problem, where the risk is in their portfolio. So it'll be very clear cut, and they'll have the same information that we do, so there should be no surprises.
Now, with Dodd-Frank leaving out credit unions from the mandate for risk-based capital, why did the NCUA feel they had to propose something like the risk-based capital rule?
Well, with this proposed rule, we're joining regulators all over the world who have strengthened the capital requirements for their financial institutions. And it was abundantly clear after the recession that we've been through that there are some credit unions that need to hold more capital, and that capital, contrary to what some people have said, capital is king. Capital is critically important to preventing failures. And if some large credit unions had held more capital to compensate for their risky portfolio, they'd still be here today. And by those credit unions, referring to Cal State, Telesis, Chetco, and even if they were not here today, even if they still failed, no doubt the losses would have been significantly mitigated. And those are losses that the entire industry has to bear.
And looking at the final rule on derivatives, we see board member Frizel saying that he had some concerns about the cost of the rule, but most credit unions wanted this, so they got it, is the quote from him at the meeting. Do you think that the cost is too much for this rule, or how do you think credit unions will react in terms of the cost?
Well, I should say at the outset that we have eliminated the application fees that were proposed when we proposed the rule, and the supervision fees that were being contemplated. So those are not in the final rule, and any costs that we accrue will be paid for out of the share insurance fund. So there will not be an assessment to the industry or to individual credit unions. But I think that the cost is really a small price to pay for the safety of the industry. And this new tool, this permitting credit unions to participate in derivatives, is being done for one purpose, and that is to hedge interest rate risk. And that today is our most serious concern. going into this year in 2014, hedging interest rate risk. And so this is a very important tool to protect certain credit unions and to protect the industry. We heard loud and clear when I held my town hall meetings in 2012 that credit unions felt they needed this tool. We were a little reluctant at first because it's just a whole new area for us, and it involves a lot of training and it does involve costs, but we felt that in the long run it was well worth it because it will protect the industry.
And last question for you, something outside of the board meeting, with the call report filing the fees, the penalties that are going to be imposed for people who file late, credit unions that file late. Why is the NCUA dealing with this in terms of penalties? Do you think there may have been maybe a better way to deal with credit unions who file their call reports late?
Well, if there was a better way, I would like somebody to tell me what it is, because we have been warning credit unions and discussing this issue with them for a very long time. I was really astounded to discover that there were over 1,700 credit unions that filed late last quarter, and many of them were chronic late filers, and in fact the number had gone up significantly year over year. So we really didn't know how else to handle this, and we're not doing this to be punitive, because the money in fact goes to the Treasury. It doesn't come to us. We're hoping that we don't have to issue any civil money penalties. The goal is to get compliance, because we can't do our job if the credit union data straggles in. We can't get our reports out on time. We can't determine the trends. And it seems like each quarter it's getting worse and worse. So in order for us to do our jobs, we felt that we had to take what some consider to be an aggressive act. I don't think it's aggressive. I think it's getting credit unions to meet a deadline, plain and simple. And if they don't, we will assess the situation. We will determine whether a civil money penalty is appropriate. In some cases, it may not. It may not be. If there's a flood or a tornado or there are some extenuating circumstances, of course we'll understand. So we're not going to assess a penalty without previous discussions with the credit union executives to find out why it was late and what can be done about it. But for chronic late filers, there will be penalties.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
At the NCUA headquarters, I'm Nicholas Balassi, and thanks for watching.